So hi, I'm back again, and this is we're up to the slide 16 now. I guess this is part 2, right? So a lot of times companies will have negative cash flow shocks where they're low on money, and I guess like any other person does, right? And they have to borrow money on a short-term basis to finance their current operations. Sometimes maybe to meet payroll. So basically, you can see here. In this example, maybe they're assuming something breaks and they have to they need an additional $1 million to replace the equipment. The impact is shown on the following slide, and let's go to that slide if I can get over there. So you can see that here. You'll notice here you notice how this used to be. There's an extra $1 million on here, right? And I believe they said that right on the first quarter there. Let's see. Assume that during April 2022 that some equipment's going to go bad. So that's started the second quarter, right? And so they got to borrow. So you can see the right here. Here's the start of the second quarter, and there's that extra $1 million. This was originally $500,000. So they've got to borrow some extra money. So you can see they're negative here now in the cash flow. So there's that negative cash flow we just referred to of $513,000, right, due to that negative cash flow. And basically, let's move on. And if they don't have enough cash, obviously they're going to have to borrow it, right? They have a short-term shortfall. And but they do generate positive cash flows in the following quarters, and by the fourth quarters they have enough cumulative cash to repay any loan. So that's one case where the news is good. We can look at another situation that basically they're going to announce a deal where they'll be the exclusive supplier to a new major customer, and sales are going to increase of 20% for the firm across the board. And it's going to begin in the second quarter. And as part of the deal, Springfield has agreed to a one-time expense of $500,000 for marketing. And they still need an extra $1 million in capital expenditures, right? To increase its production capacity. So you can clearly see what's going on here now, right? Here's that extra $1 million. Right, here's the extra $1 million, and here's the sales going up by 20%. And I believe they said that they needed an extra $500,000 for marketing, right? So basically, this has gone up, right? You got an extra $500,000 for marketing here. So this reflects all the changes, and here's all the changes in cash and equivalents. And you'll notice for the first quarter, they've got a negative cash flows, and then they go positive for all of those for the remaining 3 quarters. So we got that extra $500,000 marketing expense, as we said. And accounts receivable and accounts payable go up for those first 2 quarters because of the higher level of sales. So the net working capital has gone up, the change in net working capital. So you can see here, because even though there's this large opportunity of growth, there's still a negative cash flow. So this will become a temporary need. Okay, because the remaining quarters have positive cash flows. So this raises another important point here, which is known as the matching principle, and it's quite simple, right? And it just simply says that short-term needs technically should be financed with short-term debt, and long-term needs should be financed with long-term sources of funds. That's really all that's being said there. And basically, permanent working capital is the amount of money that a firm must keep invested in its short-term assets, simply to support the continued operations. Okay. So permanent working capital could be the money that basically Home Depot keeps all the time, right? So the matching principle basically says that the firm should finance this permanent investment in working capital with long-term sources of funds instead of short-term. And temporary working capital is simply the difference between the actual level of short-term working capital needs and its permanent working capital requirements. So the matching principle suggests that the firm basically should finance this temporary investment in working capital with short-term sources of funds. So you can clearly see the Springfield company, how they're using with seasonal sales and how they're using permanent and temporary working capital. And we can look at the, here's the short-term seasonal working capital here for each quarter. Okay, and I believe this came from, if we go back, let's go back a little. Or maybe they don't show that on here. Okay, so here is the network. Oh, here's the networking capital. This is the networking capital. So, okay, so here's the cash balance, and here's your accounts receivable, and here's your inventory and your accounts payable. So you can clearly see here that if we basically add these up, you'll notice how the net working capital comes out here. The sum of the positives and the negatives here for each quarter. Okay, so that's how that all comes out. So this is the projected level of working capital for Springfield snowboards. So you can see the working capital varies for each quarter. So they assume, they take that first minimum level of working capital and they say, okay, that's going to be the firm's permanent working capital. And they use that as the permanent working capital. Okay, so I'll stop here and I'll make another short 10-minute video and I'll add that. Alrighty, talk to you later.